Today I'm going to talk about information, or rather missing information. I do a lot of work in the family courts, and I often work with parents, and I speak to them about their childhoods. And often what comes up time and time again is that there are bits of information which are missing that they don't know about, and they've never felt able or willing or dared to ask about. And so they go throughout their whole lives not knowing really key bits of information about who they are. And this it affects them and impacts them in a number of ways. It's really important to find out these key bits of information about yourself because it affects everything about your life. I know, for example, that there a parent who had a mother but didn't know anything about the maternal side of their family, but never felt able to ask. Can you imagine how that affected that parent? All those questions that they want to ask, all those questions that were bubbling up inside their head, they could never get an answer for because they never felt able to ask that question. I know of other parents who maybe had siblings who felt that their siblings were treated better than them, but again, never felt able or were able to ask that question about why that might be the case. In fact, it may or may not have been the case. It may simply have been their view, their perception of it. They may have perceived that they were treated differently when in fact they weren't. But because that conversation, because they never asked that question and that parent never shared that information with them, that conversation never occurred. So they went through their whole life thinking that they were less loved, that they were less worthy. Okay, imagine again how that would have impacted on them for the rest of their life. I know of other situations where a parent may have experienced harm. They may have been harmed, and one of the parents may have been aware of it, but they didn't know whether the other parent was aware of it because it was never openly acknowledged that had gone on. So that parent was left feeling that they weren't worthy enough, they weren't important enough, they weren't loved enough for that to have been openly acknowledged. Can you imagine how that would have impacted on their self-esteem, on their self-worth, on who they thought they were? So these questions are really vital. It's really vital that you find out about these questions. Because it's the information you find out and the questions you ask which determine the quality of your life. So for God's sake, don't go through the whole life not asking these questions, because you need to know about the quality. You need to know what happened in your life so that you can value yourself and be properly valued, so you know what's gone on, so you can be the best person that you can be. Without having that information, you go out through your life asking questions you have no answers to. So you're simply left frustrated. So find out, because it's really important.